Welcome to Unsigned 518. I'm here with Josh Clevenstine. How's it going, man?
Good, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And you know, we had discussed the pronunciation of your last name, and I got it right first time.
You did.
And as you could tell by the shelf behind me, it's because of my love for Frankenstein. My default to anything that could be Steen or Stein is to always go with Stein. So that's how I just happened to get it right. But you know, we wanted to talk about obviously your music, and we were shooting the shit a little bit before we got rolling. Basically, I just want to kind of go back and hear about your relationship with music as you want to tell it. You know, you don't have to go as far back as, like, oh, when I was 2 and I heard my first Beatles record, but you can.
Probably gonna.
But, yeah. All right. Cool. Well, then I guess just kind of start us off.
Yeah, man. If you pull up my Apple Music, there's a shameless plug for how I stream. If you pull up my Apple Music and hit shuffle, the variety would you'll find something there that you'll like, that you'll hate, that you love, that you're offended by, you might be turned on by. You name it. It's a pretty wide variety. But one of the big cornerstones of it is Adirondack folk music. It's a genre that most people hear about. They go, what kind of music? What kind of folk music? But it's a music that I got turned on to when I was probably younger than 2 years old.
Okay.
My parents took my brothers and I up camping near Speculator, New York. And on one of those trips to Moffett Beach, we stopped at one of those little touristy kind of all-in-one shops. It's called the Indian Trading Post. And she found a cassette tape by a guy named Christopher Shaw. The cassette tape was called Adirondack. She picked it up, put it in, and my brothers and I took to it. If you go to the Library of Congress today, that album Adirondack came out in '88, is the example of Adirondack folk music.
Oh, wow.
And I have been hooked on it since then. We talked before about core memories and nostalgia, and those songs by Chris and his catalog very much can take me back to that place of being camping with my brothers and my parents. But well, that is a big cornerstone of what I listen to. Really, anything that you can just tell is honest and authentic. You know, it can be the heaviest stuff you can think of. It can be country. It can be rock. It can be reggae. If it's honest and it's genuine, I'm probably gonna like it quite a bit.
Yeah, I like that. And I mean, since I've been doing this show, I've been able to expand my genres, mostly because, like, you know, things like this where I am face to face with the artist. I'm talking, you know, meeting them on my grounds, and I get to know the human being behind the music. And then as I listen to the music more, it doesn't matter what genre it is. If I've connected with that person, then I connect with their music. And I mean, I do like all sorts of music, but I'm not as diverse as I want to be.
We could all expand the palette.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And I'm trying, but I love that. Like, that's just your fucking default, is to take it all in and find shit that you like. You know?
It also helps when you get the chance to catch things live, I think. You know, like we have mutual friends in the band called the Sugarhold, right?
Sure do.
And like, if someone has told you there's a party band from Schenectady, okay, but man, you see those guys live, like, they have so much fun.
Yeah.
They sound really, really good, and there's good dudes. Like, that combination, like, how can you not by default suddenly become a fan of Party Schenectady rock and roll?
Yeah,
You know?
and again, it's a lot of it is that human connection, because like you get that, and I don't want to say like safe, like, you know, like a trite way or like a, you know, but like they have a feeling of safety about them.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, you can have fun and let loose and dance, and they're going to encourage it because that's what they're doing, and you can feel free to let loose. And
absolutely.
And I think you're right. Like, people even outside of that genre get into it, you know, and I love that. So like, having that diverse background and like pulling everything in, but like focusing on, you know, the Adirondack folk music, do you find that it gives you like I guess, a unique edge to like most folk, you know, because I know a lot of genre musicians tend to like hammer that genre home. Like a lot of folk musicians study folk music, and so do you find that gives you like an edge having all that diversity?
Yeah, edge is a interesting way to think about it. I really hadn't thought of that. But maybe because I also I love history. I going back to being real young. My folks would take us to the Adirondack Museum. It's called the Adirondack Experience now, and I would be very much captured by the exhibits up there that talked about how folks made their living, in the 1800s, the early 1900s, and to find out there was music that told those stories and told it really well in an interesting way that also was very sonically pleasing. It really captured me. So like the music that I play now, Adirondack folk, it's also just stuff that I have been listening to and really enjoying for a long time, and also now I'm starting to try my own hand at writing it, while covering songs that are well over 100 years old.
Right.
So I think that love for history and just my desire for after a day of work to sit down with my guitar and see if I can figure out these old songs. That's kind of what you see coming through, and I guess maybe it does give me a neat edge. But I also, when I play this stuff, I'm also trying really hard to carry on the tradition that guys like Christopher Shaw, Dan Bergeron, Roy Hurd, Bill Smith, Bridget Ball, Dan Dugan, Peggy Lynn, worked really hard to lay down. And when I say work, I mean work. Like Dan Bergeron's a good friend and mentor of mine. He's really been in my corner. When he got out of the military back in the 70s, he actually went back to his hometown in Minerva, and he went on his grandfather's old mail route. And that his grandfather walked that mail route back right after World War One, and he would walk around to all different stops on it, asking people had any Adirondack folk songs, and a lot of people would say, "What the heck are you talking about?" But some people brought him in and said, "Absolutely, we sure do. Come on in." And he'd bring his little tape recorder and learn songs that way. And like
Wow.
Dan has taught me those songs. I've picked those songs up, and those guys are excited that a guy that's in his 30s has a true love and drive to keep playing this stuff. So edge maybe, but it's also more of like a drive and a calling, I would say.
Well, I mean, that's interesting to think of that, having this deep rooted music that's rooted in tradition and rooted in history in, the area, and to play it, obviously traditional music is played, it's traditional. That's why it's called a traditional. But like, I guess I'm almost looking at the opposite. Like, do you have to shut out like some of your modern influences and, cut out the noise when you're focusing on traditional stuff? Because it might veer too far away from it or something.
Interesting question. You got me thinking.
Thanks, man.
That's good. That's good. That's why I'm on the podcast. No, I think part of the of Adirondack folk is also telling how the mountains and you interact. And my story with it isn't just being a kid going camping. My day job, I'm a truck driver,
Right.
and for quite a few years, I was blessed enough to have my job be delivering livestock feed, all in and around the Adirondacks. I was driving for a big, huge mega carrier fleet. I had a small dedicated outfit, and most of the guys in it didn't really want to drive in the mountains because mountains in the wintertime are a little sketchy. But I was kind of up for it. I love the challenge. And I said, I'll drive them in the wintertime if I can drive them year round. And they said, deal. And I also was in a truck because life had kind of not gone where I wanted it to in my 20s. So my time trucking, when I was actually living in the sleeper truck and being gone Monday through Friday, wasn't just me enjoying my mountains and making a living. It was very much me just kind of thinking through why life hadn't gone where I wanted it to. And I think that process of kind of finding what really matters to you while being in a place that's always been there for you, I think that comes across in my music. I would listen to my friends and mentors' music while I would drive the mountains, but when I wouldn't be in the Adirondacks, I'd listen to other things I enjoy. It's kind of hard to not break into country music when you're a truck driver. a good friend of mine always said, if you don't like country music, you just haven't found the right country music yet. And I thought it was full of crap until I found stuff I really liked. So I think you see some of those influences coming through as I sing about being a trucker in the mountains. You might hear, and also you for sure hear Johnny Cash and stuff in my music. I love the Man in Black. You definitely hear that influence in like my song Hammer Down, or my song Connie and Rodney, and some of the new stuff I'm working on too. But you also hear the cross-picking self-accompaniment of Christopher Shaw. So it kind of goes in the Clevenstine blender and goes through the beard and comes out the mouth.
And writing your own songs and like sticking to that tradition, like I guess I'm not quite past what makes something Adirondack folk music.
Yeah.
Is it like mostly lyrically and storytelling based, or are there like musical structures that kind of you have to stay within the framework?
Great question.
That's why I have the podcast.
Exactly. It's a professional at work here, ladies and gentlemen. No, so I think just good answer to that question. We got to go back a ways, to back when lumberjacks lived in the woods. This is before log trucks. The only way you can get the lumber out of the Adirondacks was to cut the trees down, wait till it was wintertime, drag them out onto a frozen lake, wait till the lake thawed, and then run the logs down the raging rivers in the spring to Glens Falls, Ticonderoga, or wherever else the mill might be. These guys lived in the woods. There weren't jukeboxes, there weren't TVs, there were nothing yet. So these lumber companies, would actually make sure they had at least one guy paid on staff that was a decent singer. He might have been a crappy worker, but if he could sing, he would really keep morale up. This is something that these companies truly sought after. That's documented history right there. And that is very much the genesis of Adirondack folk music, as from the traditional sense. And guys like Chris, like Dan, like Roy, really anyone, Bill Smith, they would do a mixture of taking those old songs and putting them in their records, while also writing about how the Adirondacks were parts of their life. So it's kind of mixing both regularly. When I play out, when I record, I try to make sure I'm hitting songs that are well over 100 years old. I also try to make sure I'm playing and writing songs about how, my story with the Adirondacks, or their story. Right. And as songs that Chris and Dan in the early 90s, late 80s might have called their new stuff back then, it's traditional now as far as I'm concerned.
Sure.
I mean, I can play Adirondack Blue by Roy Hurd, and most folks can sing along to it that have even heard it once or twice. It's a catchy tune. But does that kind of answer that question for you a little bit? Like, and
like the because like the songs are telling about like the hardships, or like the how they settled, like while it was like the contemporary music, like while these dudes were like in the lumber camps, well over 100 years ago, the songs that they were singing, were they like kind of singing about like current shit?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
It's kind of fun. I was just playing last night. And I was saying how most of the lumber related songs are either real happy ones, like Good Day on the River, real bad ones because they had a friend die,
right?
Or they're missing women. That's a pretty common one too. But yeah, you can see that those common themes of either missing people, or a good day at work, or a bad day at work.
Was there any like "fuck the boss" songs or whatever?
I was just gonna say making fun of the boss, or sometimes liking a boss, or their skills as woodsmen were often, or lack thereof, were good.
That's just so interesting that like it was, the company was sanctioning musicians because they understood that like these dudes will go fucking crazy if they're not all sitting around like singing songs.
I was surprised to read that too, but it totally makes sense. Yeah, you got these guys who are gonna live in the woods and live in lumber camps, like. They need something to keep them busy, both working and after work, keep morale up on the job, and they would bring that to bars too, when they would when they would have some time off, they go to taverns. People enjoyed going to the bars, hear the lumberjacks sing their songs,
right?
And that carried on pretty much until jukeboxes started going into the bars. People will always not be crazy about change, but there were a lot of people that didn't really want the jukeboxes at first because they just liked when people would just sing their songs.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
mean, it's almost like the not even almost. It's like the precursor to the local music scene.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's people that are doing it because they love doing it,
Yeah.
and like
Yep.
they're gathering and just doing it on their own accord, I guess.
What's been fun is as word is getting out that I like digging through history and like grabbing these old songs. People are starting to give me books and stuff
Oh wow!
that have lots of these poems and stuff in it. I should mention, even though I've got a degree in history and all that, I'm a pretty doggone slow reader. So my stack of books to read through and dig through is getting pretty tall as I slowly read through it. But it's special that my friends, Dan and Chris and even people recognizing that I have a heart for this. It's that they're giving me books here means my songwritings haven't been good enough so far, or they trust me to
Right.
to tell more
They
stories.
probably
so.
trust you. I'm
Yeah.
I'm going with that one. Well,
Excellent.
I think we should probably hear Josh Clevenstine's song. So what do you think?
Yeah, man, it sounds good.
Which one do you want to hear or play?
I think it'd be appropriate to start with an original one that we did on my second album, By My Fire Again, an Adirondack album. In the name of carrying on tradition, this song is called Tradition Bears. I had the idea for it when I had a drive that took me to stop in Ogdensburg, Messina, and Malone, starting in Guilderland, New York, pulling feed. And it was kind of a foggy, misty March day. Not too bad, but not too great either. And I hadn't seen my friend Chris Shaw in some time, and I was kind of missing him. And on that drive, I was trying to think of the difference between Chris and Dan specifically in their music, and I had the idea that I feel like Dan's songs kind of teach you to hear the mountains whisper, and Chris's songs teach me how to hear the mountains sing, And I actually pulled the truck over at one point during that day and started just writing lyrics based off of that, and it turned into kind of describing the difference in my head of the two pickers' styles, turned into kind of a salute to all the guys and gals that I could think of in that moment
Right.
that I played Adirondack folk music before me. And when we recorded By My Fire Again, Chris Shaw, Dan Berger, and John Kirk, Roy Hurd, they all pitched in and tracked with me on it. So it was pretty special those guys recording with me. But they probably got a little sick of hearing their names in that song as I gave them the salute. But I stand by it because they deserve it.
Right.
So
Awesome. All right. Well, let's hear Tradition Bears, Josh Clevenstine. We'll be right back.
Dan Bergen showed us how to hear the mountains whisper. John Kirk would serenade us with his bow and his string. Bill Smith would capture us with his songs around the fire. And Chris Shaw taught us hear the Adirondack sing. Driving 458 St. Regis down towards Portsmouth. The cold winds of a March day seem to distance the coming spring. Been so long since I've seen him, but his voice will soon come calling. The high peaks in the distance call the mountains for his city. 'Cause Dan Bergen showed us how to hear the mountains whisper. John Kirk would serenade us with his bow and his strings. Bridget Ball would capture us with Darling Rosie by the fire. And Chris Shaw taught us hear the Adirondack sing. Mountain air joins me in harmony as I sing down 73. Cold River Waltz takes me to another time, to an old friend's fishing camp, where he taught me how to cross-pick to find my voice, tell my story. Now find yours while I sing mine. 'Cause Dan Bergen showed us how to hear the mountains whisper. John Cook would serenade us with his bow and his strings. Roy, Dan, and Peggy joined their voices in the choir, and Chris Sharp taught us near the Adirondack singing. Young boy from a big porch know his greater calling when he listened to his uncle, his father telling lies. I pray I do my duty to carry on tradition, to sing your songs, tell your stories, and add a chapter or two of mine. 'Cause Dan Bergen showed us how to hear the mountains whisper. John Cook would serenade us with his bow and his strings. Uncle Walt would capture us with his lies around the fire, and Chris Shaw taught us near the Adirondack Sea. So come listen with me to the high pines as they whisper. Hear the Seven Rivers serenade in my picks and these strings. Capture your loved ones with these songs around the fire. Teach the next generation to hear the Adirondack sing. Because Chris Shaw taught me you're the Adirondack sing.
That was Tradition Bears, Josh Clevenstine, and that one's off the album By My Fire Again. And while we were listening to that last track, you were telling me a story of another song on that album, and I actually kind of had you put the story on hold so that you can tell the story while I was recording. So I guess tell me the story of the second song that we're going to hear.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. I try to avoid cliches where I can. Maybe it's because I had enough professors in college that were like, hey, stop being cliche. Okay. And I didn't want to do the whole like title track, super obvious big chorus hook. So this next song is called Mason. It's got the chorus By My Fire Again. But now whenever I say I'm playing Mason, no one knows what song it actually is. So, what can I say? I'm a musician, not a marketing guy. But whatever, not a big deal. Mason is a real special song for me, and it's named after Mason Lake, which is about 15 minutes north of Speculator, depending on how fast you drive up on Route 30. And the idea with Mason / the concept of the album name By My Fire Again was I wanted to capture a special feeling that a person can get when they've got a place they've been going to for a very long time. Kind of going back to that core memory conversation we were having earlier. the place that you can go to shut the world out, shut the bad things out, and just kind of refocus and recenter yourself. For me, that's Mason Lake. A certain campsite you got to paddle across the lake to. You're not bringing a lot of stuff with you, just you know, your tent, some firewood maybe. You know, it's simple kind of rustic camping. And I've been going there since I was a kid, so I've got memories from, you know, before being a teenager, you know, young 20s. My old dog was named Mason after Mason Lake. That's his paw right there. That's Mason Lake outlined around the paw. You know, it's where my wife and I got
tattoo
engaged.
on his leg.
Yeah, on my shin. He was a big dog. I felt that paw print going on. Yeah. So that idea of going back to a place that's always right, and you can look around and, like, you know, the rocks are in the same place. The tree might have gotten a little taller, the moss might have gotten greener, but it's always right. It's always steady. It's always constant. I figured that was a theme that people could relate to. So that's where the idea of the phrase "by my fire" again came from. It's like, you're back, you're safe, you can breathe. When I wrote that song, I had just come off of the road of living in the truck. We talked before about how, like, that was kind of safe space for me for a while. And honestly, I'd gotten real comfortable there. You know, I'd found a way to make a decent living. I started playing music again, doing that. I dated and married my wife while I was doing that. So, like, life worked in that situation. When I came home and became a local driver, honestly, I was scared because, you know, quote, being home before didn't work out so great. And I was like, how is it going to work now, being home again? Like, life's going to be different. And, like, pretty much the first weekend I was back, you know, I went up north and got to that place by that fire again and started writing. You know, days are long, years are short, you know, one step at a time. It's really all I'm worth. And that's, you know, the beginning of that song. But, you know, sitting by your fire, hearing the loons call around the bend, it's always right. It's always good. It can be winter, it can be summer, it can be fall. And, yeah, just you catch a glimpse of heaven doing that,
right?
You know, and that is that song. That's the chorus. That's the verses, and having John Kirk put fiddle over it, having Dan Bergeron sing with me in the choruses, and my good friend Rob Fleming, who records me, also adding harmonies.
I know Rob.
Shout out Roseway. Yeah. Is everything right? Is in that song, and I hope when folks hear it, even if it's not Mason Lake, wherever that place is for them, I hope they can kind of get to that place and just breathe, you know. So that's Mason.
For me, that place is this room.
Yeah, I can tell. It's a good room. It's a great room.
Surrounded it with pieces of my childhood, and, like, just so for that same reason, you know, like, I can just look over and be like, oh yeah.
There's no better place to discuss Adirondack folk music than next to the Miss Pac-Man machine.
Yeah.
And the horror action figures.
Yeah.
I mean that with all seriousness.
Yeah.
It is you got a good place here.
Yeah. And what I like about this, like, there's times, like, where I'll just, like, stay up late and just come in here and just be in here, you know, like, looking, even if I'm just, like, listening to music and, like, dicking around with the guitar or, like, getting a couple games of Miss Pac-Man in.
Absolutely.
But, like, there's something about it that recharges me. So, like, I understand it. It's a different thing for me, like, because I'm not an outdoorsy dude. Like, I'm an indoor kid. But yeah, I get it. I get the sentiment.
Yeah,
for
the
sure.
recharge.
Like, yeah, the recharge, the mental recharge. It's like we all need them.
Yes, we do. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but I guess if there's nothing else to add about the song, maybe we should hear the song.
I think we have warmed it up thoroughly. Let's eat.
Yeah, awesome. So it's called Mason. You know what you should do? You should add like the parentheses with the, you know, by my fire again.
There's an idea.
Like, you know, so that you can be like, the song's called Mason, because they've done that with, like, some popular songs.
Yeah,
like
Green Day did that, didn't they?
Yeah,
Time of Your Life, Good Riddance.
Correct. Yeah, they're like, oh no, the name of the song is Good Riddance.
When
and
in
people
doubt,
are like,
rip
what?
off Green Day.
I don't get it. And then they're like, no, Time of Your Life. And they're like, oh, I get it now.
I got to order more CDs soon anyways. So.
Yeah. Just add that in parentheses and be like, yeah, it's fine.
Well, thank you, Andy from Unsigned, for that one.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah, add a fucking note at the bottom there. All right, well, let's listen to Mason by My Fire again by Josh Clevenstine. Then we'll be right back to wrap it up.
years are short. One step at a time is all I'm ever worth. Peace of mind, so hard to find. A spot to rest on this good earth. A look behind where I've been. The paths I've taken where they've led. Yet here I am, same sacred ground, to find the rest once before I found. And I'm by my fire again. The loons call round the bend. The mountain breeze welcomed as a friend. This is but a glimpse of heaven. The trees gotten taller. The rock hasn't changed. The stone's gotten greener. And the water, well, it looks the same. The surrounding summits look down as they always have on men like me. Come here seeking wisdom, but mostly to find rest. I'm by my fire again. The loons call round the bend. The mountain breeze welcomed as a friend. This is but a glimpse of heaven. Days are long, years are short. One step at a time is all I'm ever worth. Peace of mind, so hard to find. A spot to rest on this good earth. Or look behind where I've been. The paths I've taken where they've led. Yet here I am, same sacred ground, to find the rest once before I found. And I'm by my fire again. The loons call round the bend. The mountain breeze welcomed as a friend. This is but a glimpse of heaven. Peace of mind, so hard to find. A spot to rest on this good earth.
All right, that was Mason, Josh Clevenstine. And Josh, I want to thank you so much for coming over, taking time out of your day to do this. It was a really cool conversation. And before we go, like I do with all my guests, I want to give you a chance to say what I refer to as your gratitudes. So the microphone is all yours.
Oh, thank you. This is going to get awkwardly long. No,
Go for it. I've had some that are fucking 14 minutes long. So
all right, so 14 and a half. Here
all right, there you go.
No, man. Well, first off, thank you for having me in this really, really cool room. This is awesome, and it's appropriately orange.
You got to get a game of Miss Pac-Man in before you leave.
I'm planning on it. So
all right.
Make it a quick 14 minutes. Yeah. Mikey Bass from the Sugar Hold. I'm pretty sure it's his fault in some way or another. So, Mikey, you're awesome. All the guys in the Sugar Hold, they're awesome. Yeah, the mentors I've talked about, Chris Shaw, Dan Berggren, Roy Hurd, John Kirk, Dan Dugan, Peggy Lynn. I love all you guys. Thank you for your hard work. My wife, Ashley, you're the best. The folks over at EXT, Chris and Laura especially, thank you so much for pushing my stuff. I won't go for 14 minutes, I promise. But everybody at Parkway Music, Madison, Jesse, Johnny, Max, you guys, all the reasons my gear even works, so they're pretty great. And you guys, man, Metroland and all that, thank you for supporting local guys. Like, you make us all feel like we matter.
You do matter. That's right.
Appreciate it, man. No, that's really about it. I'm sure if I sat here longer, my trucking company, Shaker, they're pretty good to me. They could just run me to the ground. They don't. They know I play music and they support it very, very much. So that's pretty rare. I appreciate those guys an awful lot. Nah, man, they're good. God is good. It's great for everybody that he's put in my life. So that's about it, I'd say. But I sure appreciate having me out here again, man. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so he is Josh Clevenstine. I'm Andy Scullin. This is Unsigned518. I'll see you on the road. Unsigned518 is produced and hosted by me, Andy Scullin. New episodes are available every week wherever you stream podcasts. If you would like to help support the show, please like and subscribe wherever you are listening. Or you could buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/unsigned518. If you would like to advertise on the show, send me an email at unsigned518@gmail.com. And to be a guest on the show, reach out to me through Instagram at unsigned518. Take care of one another, and I'll see you next week.